Welcome to Seneca Studios, everybody. My name is Clifton Crawford. It is, oh my gosh, the date always jumps out of my brain the minute I'm supposed to say it. It's May 2023, and this is our Open Studios event that we do every month. Seneca Studios is in Fort Worth, Texas. We're in the near Southside Cultural District, which is an amazing neighborhood. We've been here for 12 years, and if you are in the area, please come by. There's a bunch of great things to do down here tonight. And you definitely have to see this demonstration. We're thrilled to have Nathan Pautsch and Nick Gomez doing a collaborative demonstration tonight. And so I wanted to kind of introduce you guys a little bit to the organization and to them. We're a nonprofit. We're dedicated to education and community. We do things in glass blowing, flame worked glass, and kiln formed glass. Tonight we're featuring the flame working techniques. We do programming in arts and culture. We do programming in education. We do programming in wellness. We're a very well-rounded organization. We do a lot of good things in this community. And I want to recognize the City of Fort Worth, the Texas Commission on the Arts, the R4 Foundation, the J.E.S. Edwards Foundation, and everybody out there who's donated to help Seneca Studios become the organization that it is. We have an incredible team here. I want to recognize the team. Heidi Childers, we got Jean behind the camera, Amy's here, Kevin's here, and Brandy is kind of working through the promotion of this. Kanan will be on the mic. So come down and see this demonstration, and then if you're not able to tonight, come take a class. Come do a private event. Come experience glassmaking. Here at Seneca Studios, we are here for everybody. We belong to this community, and it's really a cool story. And I think tonight is a good representation because these artists learned in this community. They're from this community just like we are. We grew out of nothing. There was a big void in glassmaking in this area, and that's why Seneca Studios exists. And in a quick conversation, I learned a little bit about these guys, and you know, it's a similar story. You know, I think that they're here for a reason tonight. So thank you both for being here tonight, and tell us a little bit about you guys. You know, a little bit before we get started.
Well, first, thank you for having us here.
Yeah.
I started. I wanted to get an art job that I got to kind of be my own boss. I actually first got to see glass for the first time here in Seneca, and after that found a school where I could learn borosilicate work that kind of just took anybody in off the street, and got lucky enough to find that place and keep doing it to this day and be back here after so many years.
Cool. Well, we really appreciate you coming. Tell us a little bit about your work. You do a variety of work. We've got some in the gallery, but what's your favorite thing to make?
The roses here are my favorite thing to make for sure, but I make all kinds of functional work, mostly with borosilicate, wide variety of things, but sculpture is really kind of my bread and butter, the thing that, you know, gets me up and makes me want to do this and explore just different avenues.
Awesome. Cool. And Nick Gomez, who is our resident flame working studio manager and instructor, he's been with us for a long time, and it's awesome to feature him on a night like tonight.
Yeah, I took my first class here almost 10 years ago, and haven't lost my love of glass. I think about it every day. Me and Pautsch are best friends. We do glass all the time together, and yeah, he's taught me a lot of things as I came up through the glass world, and we've kind of fed off of each other as far as sculpting technique and. But mostly it's him teaching me. It's just, yeah, I really enjoy sculpting. I've always enjoyed the process of assembly, making a lot of pieces, putting it together, as well as sculpting eyes. I don't know what it is about eyes. I've been drawn to them for a very long time. But I really like the result of how making an iris out of cane can come to look so realistic. And it's just something I've stuck with for a really long time, and I still really enjoy doing it, even after almost 10 years of doing it.
Well, it's fascinating. Y'all's work is gorgeous. You're both very skilled. And so tonight, we're going to bring those loves together, right? Sculpture, assembly. So what are you making?
We're actually going to do a couple of robot-inspired pieces, but on the functional side, doing different styles of cups. We're going to do one that's more of like a mug-style cup, as well as one that is more of a ornate goblet-style cup, both with sculptural elements, though, on top of that classic style.
Cool. Sounds fun.
Yeah, we're excited.
Awesome. Well, let's get started. You guys hop into the hot shop and crank up the torches. And you guys were manning the chat. If you have questions, feel free to ask questions online. And come by. You know, you got to see this stuff in person. So if you're in the area, come stop in and watch them work. We'll be working until 9 o'clock tonight. But again, thanks for tuning in. I want to thank everybody out there who's donated to help us do what we do. We've got an upcoming event on the 24th of next month of our Ice Cream Social fundraiser to help us get through the summer and kind of update our historic building and do some improvements on our equipment. So go online, check us out online, check us out on social, give us a call. But come to Seneca Studios and experience glass. That's why we're here. Thanks, guys. Looking forward to tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks
Awesome.
for having us again.
That's live for now.
It is.
So we're going to be making a robot with a mug today. We're going to be making some robots with some mug glasses.
Robot drinkware.
So today we have two different stations set up for the torch working. Both of them are preparing different size rings. Nick and Pautsch have known each other. Sorry about that. Nick and Pautsch have known each other for about 10 years now. Pautsch originally learned glass in Austin for a little bit of time, and then eventually came back to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, picking up glass in different other areas, and he's currently working out of the Gray Area studio in Arlington. Nick is our instructor for torch work at Seneca Studios. Both Nick and Pautsch heavily consider themselves to be sculptors. So currently Nick and Pautsch are both setting up just different levels of these rings. For the work that they're doing today, they'll be combining individual components to eventually add together into several different pieces. Each of them themed around a general robot. Nick, are we doing the blow mold for the network first? So as we work through the rest of the day, you're going to notice that both Nick and Pautsch are going to use a variety of different sizes of torches as well as different flames. Pautsch right now is using a very small flame to weld together the connection points. But you can see on some of the bigger flames, they'll actually increase the flame size and decrease the flame size, depending on what specific type of heat they need to shape the glass or how big of a flame they need to heat a larger area or a smaller area. So for the past couple of months, we've featured different artists inside of the hot shop where they work with soft glass. Today, Pautsch and Nick are going to be working with borosilicate glass. There are many different types of glass. Borosilicate glass specifically has a melting point at around 3,000 degrees where they're working. It can get hot and attach at about 1,700 degrees, but most of the time the glass is sitting at around 3,000 degrees while we're working and sculpting with it. Versus glass inside of the hot shop or soft glass, or soda lime glass, sits at about 2,100 degrees at its maximum temperature. So just about 1,000 degree difference in temperature between the different types of glass. That does make some benefits, specifically for borosilicate though. Borosilicate is a lot harder to break. A lot of the way that they would test old sculptural pieces with borosilicate to make sure that they were strong is to literally bounce them. That way they could see if it cracked, there was an easy weak point, but if it bounced up and it was okay, the glass was properly annealed. If you try to do that with soft glass or most other types of glasses, they would probably break very easily. Borosilica glass may be a new term, but a lot of you are probably familiar with Pyrex glass. Pyrex glass is most commonly used in all of our baking glassware. It can reach temperatures of up to 300 to 400 degrees very easily and not have any issues. Both use very similar formulas. And in fact, Pyrex was originally a type of borosilicate glass. But Corning actually changed the formula to a more soda lime glass to make it a little bit easier to produce. So one of the fun things about working with the torches is that they are both oxygen and propane fed. That way we can reach that blue flame that'll give us a 3,000 degree temperature. Unfortunately, Nick ran out of propane on his side, so he's gonna go replace the propane tank. So that is one of the things we have to consider when working with glass is how we're achieving getting that flame. And so changing out the propane whenever it gets low is definitely one of those little annoyances that we got to deal with. We can see Pautsch has created a ring out of glass, and he's now using a carbon reamer to round out the inside. Glass naturally likes to get more round when it's hot, so he doesn't have to do much work on the outside. He just has to focus on the inside to make sure it's nice and round. you ever watch when glass gets hot, especially the tip of the glass where Pautsch is adding all these little sections, you'll notice that it starts to ball up. And that's because glass naturally likes to get into a sphere. It's very rare that you see hard edges on glass that was hot and then cooled. Typically, if you see a hard edge in glass, it's due to either a mold that was made or it was because it was carved down after it was cooled. So Pautsch essentially was working on the ring on one side, and then he had to get it off the original piece of glass, so he attached another small part. That way he could break off the original part where it was fused together, and then he could heat that connection point that was originally made and then round it out. So that way we'll have a perfectly circular ring, or a perfectly rounded ring. One of the great things about working with the torches is that most of them have a small little version of a marver right on the torch, so that way they can actually flatten the pieces that they're making right in front of them. In glass blowing, there's a lot of movement. In fact, we're working in the glass studio today. And typically we have to move between the hole, the bench, and all around the studio. For a torch worker, most of their work is right in front of their chest. They don't have to reach around or move around a whole lot. So Nick has now gotten another propane into the system, so now we have our flame back up and running. If a flame has too little propane or too much oxygen or too little of oxygen, it can create issues with consistency and heat. If we were using color, it could cause other issues as well.
Hey, Amy, here in a minute, I'm about to move over here to do this circle. If you want to get a close-up shot, I have this cup mounted right here. That's where I'm going.
So Nick has gone ahead and heated up the glass, and now he's pulling it apart a little bit more with two different pieces. He's then going to stretch it and wrap it around. Once it's wrapped, he'll let it attach and connect a little bit. And then he's going to melt it back down to create a connection spot. So Pautsch and Nick are both elected to work in clear glass today. And borosilicate especially, clear glass is a lot easier to work with because you can kind of see what's happening, as well as the flames won't react with the different colors to create unwanted results. As soon as we start to add color into the mix, glass becomes a lot more complicated. Different colors react to different temperatures, to different flame. And so working consistently between two people is really important, and clear glass is a lot easier to see what's moving along. So we can see Nick has now combined the ring side together. He's picked it up on another piece, and now he's going to start heating it up and smoothing it out so that we can get a nice ring. What's nice about the glass too is that you can add or take away more glass. Since glass is an amorphous solid, whenever you combine the different pieces and then fully melt them and fuse them together, they can become indistinguishable. Nick is currently just using the edge of a steel mixing cup that you would find in a bar. A lot of glass tools are either created specifically for the design or just found metal objects that serve the specific function that we need. Additionally, a lot of torch working uses carbon tools as well. So you can see he has a rod that's made out of carbon that he's kind of using to smooth out the inside. Similar to how Pautsch was smoothing out the inside with his reamer earlier. Do you want the other ones? There's quite a bit. Cool. So Pautsch was asking about getting calipers. It's important, especially when two different people are working together at this scale, that all of their stuff measures up correctly. So Pautsch is going to go ahead and use the calipers to start measuring up his glass so that way he knows exactly what size he needs on the next steps.
Put that over there. I just don't want to burn it back.
Gotcha.
We go for one more. I messed that one up, so. How many do we have?
So Pautsch and Nick are talking about their game plan of how they're going to combine everything together. do have a drawing on the board, but they're also just discussing on the fly what they want to do. The ring that Nick most recently made is not up to what he liked, so they were discussing if they wanted to make another ring or just combine the ones they have already.
You didn't happen to make sure not to get any of my drinks in the pictures, right? I forgot not to have that on the table because Topo doesn't want alcohol in the shots. So, okay, yeah, that's fine.
So Pautsch has gone ahead and picked up one of his pieces from the box. This is going to be the foot, if I'm correct. A lot of the pieces were pre-made before they came today. And so what they're going to do is they're going to heat up those feet, make sure that the connection points are nice and well made. And then slowly start attaching all the different pieces together.
Clean this guy on the inside.
So Pautsch was liking the look of that one. He's now going to pick up the other one, flip it around, and do the same steps. So first he's going to heat just the glass a little bit to get a small connection. Flip it around and then fuse the bottom of that glass or heat it up enough to where he can sculpt it and make it smooth. Like we talked about a little bit before, when we're working in torch working, the biggest thing that we change is our flame. Depending on how much we want to heat or how little we want to heat, how hot we want the glass to get, we'll change the type of flame that we have. So we can see that Pautsch just changed the flame from a really wide one to keep it all hot to a very small pointed heat. That way he can start taking away that glass a little bit more. So he's heating up that specific little nub, and then he'll take the glass and actually pull it off a little bit more. You'll also notice he'll tap it on the end of the mug, and then it goes into water, so that way it can just cool and break apart. But then he's gonna make that flame a lot bigger, give it all a good heat, and then use one of the little carbon plates to flatten it down. So now that he's liking the shape of that, he's gonna go ahead and put that one away. All those are going to be used later in the process whenever we combine them all to create the robot that we're making. So they were just checking on the size to make sure that their thing's going to fit inside of the network mold that they have.
I'm going to strike color on it before I blow it.
Gotcha. So they're going to take a little extra color and then actually run lines on the outside and then create a nice color pattern.
I got it. What color? Black. Got it?
I figured tennis are wrong.
So for those of you that might be joining us a little later, Pautsch, who's in the more peach shirt right now, I would describe it as, works out a great area studio. He's been torch working for about the past 11 years. Nick in our gray shirt is actually the instructor here at Seneca Studios. They've both known each other for the last 10 years or so. They collaborate and talk a lot. They work on different pieces together. But Pautsch is best known for a lot of his sculptural work. Some of his most popular collaborations or different pieces are sculpted borosilicate apples. Some of my favorite that he does is he does the different fruits from One Piece. But he can be found at Pautsch Glass on Instagram and all other socials. And Nick can be found at Gomez Glass. Both of them consider themselves to be more sculptors in torch working. But one of the nice things about torch working is when you're sitting down in between and making plans, you can actually turn off the heat. So you can see now that they're discussing their plan, they've actually taken the heat away so that way they're not going to get as hot. If we were in the hot shop working in soft glass, we cannot take the heat away. Once the hole's on, it has to stay on until the piece is done. But with torch working, since the glass cools pretty rapidly, you can actually turn off the torches while you're waiting in between steps or discussing plans for the future. So right now they're just going over the plan again to see what they want to do. So right now they're talking about how they want to orient the piece, how they want to go through the next steps. Nick has an example of some stuff that he's been experimenting with lately. And so what they plan on doing is taking that ring stack that they had earlier and then actually blowing into it with some more of the borosilicate. and get a little sneak peek of some of the pieces that they'll be working on with later. Right now they're hanging in the kiln, just getting prepared to heat up a little bit more. Those will be all fused and fully attached later on in the process. Nick, are you going to be pulling out another ring?
Huh?
Are you going to do another ring?
No, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the body of the robot and I'm going to change, I'm going to swap the side of the handle. That way we can go ahead and put the legs on.
Okay,
Then I'm going to swap it back when we put the arms on.
cool. So they're going to start fully attaching the robot now. You can see Pautsch on the other end is now trying to get this ring onto the actual manifold. So he's gotten one part of the ring attached. He's then going to let it kind of naturally fall down. Then he's going to heat up that connection point. And since it's already touching, while it's getting hotter and hotter, it should just start to fuse together. On the other end, Nick has gotten the body. He's going to go ahead and start taking that glass, creating an attachment, centering it. But Pautsch has his ring attached now. Nick now has the body onto another piece. So Nick has gone ahead and detached from the other piece of glass that was already there. He's then going to heat it up and start to pull it away with the tweezers, taking away that excess glass. Pautsch on the other end is just making sure that that seam that he made with the ring and the manifold is actually all smooth and connected. Nick is now going to go ahead and get up the other piece. He's kind of measuring out a little bit to see what type of size he needs to make. So right now they're trying to break it so that way they'll be ready to start attaching it to the other thing. They're going to do what's called a colder attachment. So it seems as if there's a crack in the piece, so they're trying to determine if they can save any bits of it, they need to remake it. So one of the reasons that they had so many of their different pieces ready to go before we started is because Nick and Pautsch are able to work out in Nick's studio, where they have a lathe. A lathe allows them to rotate the glass on center infinitely, where they can then tool and create those nice disc forms that they have on the body. Unfortunately, we do not have a lathe at our studio, so it'd be much harder for them to replicate the process here. They could do it, but it would take much longer. So now they're going to attempt to essentially fuse together the crack or just cut their losses and break it off.
So our piece cracks,
Yeah.
we're going to try to heal it up.
Cool. So they are going to try to heal up the piece rather than just break it.
I think he's going to swap the handle back and then just try to torch it until it's gone.
Cool.
You're going to bridge it? You're going to bridge it?
So essentially they just want to make sure that that crack gets hot enough to where it can fuse back together. That way it'll create a solid piece of glass again. Whenever we work in the hot shop, if we get a crack on our glass, it's a lot harder to fix. And torch working, it's still difficult and a pain, but you can actually switch axes multi-times and then actually fuse it back together. It's a little easier to deal with.
So the largest section of that has cracked when I put it back in the mill, and it's only getting deeper in there, so we have to replace it. That's how it should be. The knurling also kind of adds stress, so that also may help the I'll try to make another one with this guy.
So unfortunately, they're going to have to cut their losses and most likely break the piece off. In the meantime, Nick is going to start using a solid rod and then making a replacement for it. So you can see Pautsch is essentially removing material by getting it super hot and then using a cold piece of glass to actually physically pull it away. He then dunks it in the water so it'll stress and crack and then break off the end. That way you can still keep using that rod of clear glass that he has to manipulate and work with the piece.
What are you trying to do? I don't want to break the cup. Oh. Look at this one.
I was more worried about just dropping that whole cup of molten glass.
Oh, I do that every day.
that they've gotten that piece that was cracking off, that should relieve the issue.
I'm trying to make another one.
That seemed to be the only one that was stressed out. And so what they're going to do is they're going to make a replacement for it and then attach it after that. So Nick is essentially heating up a solid piece right now, and then he will flatten and create a disc-like shape for it. So as previously mentioned, they had a lathe while they were working on preparing the pieces so they could make a really nice round circular piece. That's why they made all their individual components last night. So now they're gonna have to do it by hand, and because you can't turn precisely by hand, exactly like a machine would, it might not look exactly like it was before it started to crack. So Nick is gonna go ahead and start pushing down on graphite pad, creating a round disc area. After he does that, he's gonna go ahead and heat it again. Now they're just kind of eyeballing, seeing if the size lines up correctly. So you can see the entire time Nick's been changing his torch flame as well as the angle. He also has a pedal underneath the table where he can actually press and feed more oxygen and propane to make the flame a lot bigger. Like that. And so instead of angling the flame up in the air that he would be using for sculpting, he's now doing it directly across, so that way he can roll on top of these rollers and then more easily heat it up while he's rolling. He's now using the edge of this carbon plate to start smoothing out that a little bit more.
Try to true it up so it doesn't bounce so much. Now it shouldn't bounce when I rotate it.
So he's trying to make sure it's more balanced while he's turning. So now that it's a little bit more on center, he's going to keep working with it. So once again, he's just trying to center that up so that way it turns a little bit more on center.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten that round edge, try to give it more of a flat edge.
So he's going to now take that edge and start flattening it to make it more of a disc.
Go for more of a puck shape.
So you can see he's kind of lined the edge so that we have a nice, good, thick edge. And then he's going to go ahead and start heating up another piece, attach it to the bottom, and then pull it off the thick piece of glass. He's trying to get it as on center as possible to make his next part much easier. On the other end, Pautsch has gone ahead and added another ring to the robot. Pautsch, are those going to be the eyes Those the eyes? Perfect. So he's added a second ring, and this will be the eye. So Pautsch has been working on the head while Nick is working on the body. Nick is now pulling off that last piece. And now that he's pulled it off, he's going to go ahead and smooth out that other rod. At the same time, he's going to use that flame to start getting ready to pull off that excess glass. So Nick has now adjusted his flame to make sure it's really nice and small. Then he'll start pulling it off. In the meantime, Pautsch is on the other end touching up that head, creating more details on the work, smoothing out different edges, creating bumps in specific areas to give it features. You can see Pautsch has kind of been heating up areas, pulling and pushing away different areas so that we can break apart parts of the round circle. And that way you can make further attachments later. Nick is now almost done removing the material on the disc. He'll take this final part and start to pull it off. And we can see now that he's pretty much left with just the disc at this point. And so now he'll start heating that up, smoothing it out to create more of the disc shape that he's looking for. Pautsch on the other end has gone ahead and attached some of the different other pieces, creating more structure in this frame that'll later be blown into. Nick has now recreated that disc that was cracking earlier, and now he's going to take the other piece of the body that it was originally on, and he's going to add this replacement to it. You can see Pautsch is also using a metal knife as a sculpting tool where he'll heat up the glass and then actually push it around with the metal. Nick has gone ahead and attached that extra disc to the body. He wants to make sure everything's on center, so he's lining it up, and then he'll start heating it and removing specific pieces in different areas. Pautsch is starting to work closer to the hot area, so he has a glove so that way his hand's not getting as hot. Especially once you heat the glass more and more, your hands are going to get hotter and hotter if they're closer to the heat. So the glove's going to help Pautsch resist that heat a little bit more as he starts to focus on sculpting this face.
Switch back to attach to
So Pautsch is now using a really small flame to hit specific detailed areas. On the other end, Nick is getting his body prepared to start attaching the feet. So they now fix the disc. It's all ready to be fully attached in a little bit. Everything's just fixed up now, so they're going to start attaching in a second.
Yeah, just repaired the body. Now it's going to start assembling the leg. So let's see if the legs are cool. Give me the legs. The piece that I just made is attached on the head side. So we're going to bring it in like this. We're going to weld the legs onto the bottom of it. And then we're going to come in with another handle and attach to the bottom side. So we can do the head. And the head is going to be attached to the cusps.
So Pautsch has now pulled out what I can assume to be the head and face. And he's going to start preparing that. So Nick went ahead and just grabbed the cup.
It's all full of junk.
Cleaning it out to make sure it's nice and no dust or anything. Anytime you're working with the borosilicate glass, you want to make sure the surfaces are clean. If the glass starts to get hot with any type of residue on top, that residue will fuse into the glass or create odd textures or bumps or bubbles.
And
guys make this on the lathe the other day? Lathe last night? Did you guys make that on the lathe?
Yeah.
Cool. So this cup that they're working with right now was made on the lathe previously. That's how it's so symmetrical and smooth, is because they had a machine turning on center the entire time. But you can see now that Pautsch is going to go ahead and take those pieces, start to preheat one, making sure the other one stays hot. Once it's hot enough, then he's going to go ahead and take those pieces, attach them and fuse them together. So he's going to go ahead and take those hot spots, attach, and then he's able to break it off. Now he wants to make sure all of that's properly fused together, so he's going to go and take the small torch, heat those connection points to make sure that the glass fuses together. So Pautsch is talking about how he wants to make sure that everything is nice and hot. If one area gets too cold while the other's hot, it's going to stress it out and cause cracks and breaks. And so he's electing to use a larger flame so that way it heats a broader area. That way it all stays hot and it doesn't get as stressed. One thing with glass is that whenever it's cold, it does look clear, but there are also many stages where where the glass looks clear and it's hot. Borosilicon's a great example of how hot glass can be and still look clear. Pautsch is currently working on this glass, and it's well easily over 1700 degrees at this point. But it just appears clear despite being 1000 degrees hot at least. So one of the reasons, if you ever come into the studio to take a class with us and you're working in the hot shop or you're working in the torch working area, we'll tell you not to pick up the glass, because unless it's guaranteed to be cold, it could all be hot.
These are the first things that you're going to know. The legs are going to be attached first. We're going to switch sides, and then we're going to attach the arms.
So they're talking about their plan for attaching which spots to what. So they have a set of legs and arms that they're going to attach to the torso that they were working on earlier. And so now they're going to go put the cup away into another annealer to just hold it. That's a little bit bigger than the red box that's on the table. So as a reminder, anyone who's just joined us, if you guys have any questions, just let us know. That goes for people who are watching online as well as people inside the studio. So right now, Pautsch, who's wearing the Dallas Stars hat, and Nick in the gray shirt are talking about how they're going to start combining pieces in a second. They're going to be creating a robot with a mug on the top. And so right now they're talking about the game plan of how they're going to add together the body, the legs, the arms, and the cup they were just working on. All of this is being done in clear glass. The type of glass is called borosilicate. Borosilicate melts at around, or moves very easily at around 3,000 degrees. If you guys have ever seen any glass blowing inside the hot shop, that glass actually moves at around 2,100 degrees. So this type of glass takes a lot more heat to start moving it. So you can see Pautsch is starting to prepare one of the legs. He's heating up one of those areas just to melt and smooth that out a little bit more. That way it'll have a better connection point. So they've been measuring up all their different components. In a second, they're going to heat it up a little bit more and then start attaching all the legs together. So they've heated it up, they've measured it out. They're going to start attaching now. So they've gone ahead and taken those clear bits and they attached it. The glass did not quite like the connection, so they went ahead and broke it apart, and then they're going to go ahead and preheat the tops, making it a little bit easier to work with on the next one. So you can see on one end, Pautsch is heating the tips of the legs. On the other, Nick is going to go ahead and start heating up that body. That way we can get a better connection on this next one. So they communicated they're good. Nick is going to go ahead and go over, attach those legs. Pautsch is going to fuse them together using the smaller torch. And they're making sure it stands up straight. So right now they're just trying to make sure that everything is straight and level. So these are the feet and the body now attached. For those of you guys who just came in or are watching, They're making a robot that'll have a glass on top. For those of you in the studio that need a reference, there's a drawing up over here. So they have a body with 2 of the legs on the bottom. And then they will be adding the arms in a second, and then the cup that they had been making a minute ago. As a reminder, if anyone has any questions, just let us know. So right now they're just touching up those connection points for the legs. They want to make sure it's fully fused together, that way the glass stays connected, while also checking to make sure everything's nice and level. So this is definitely one of the more important parts of this process right now, is to make sure that the feet and the body are all lined up correctly. That way they can become level. Otherwise they won't have a functional piece at the end. It'll be slanted and off weight and off center. So that's why they're taking a lot of time to dedicate to make sure that the legs and the body are properly attached. So now that it's all properly attached, they'll go ahead and put it away in the kiln, allow it to sit for a second. So they're going to let this soak in the heat for a little bit, so that way it can get annealed. That way there's not going to be any stress that's created from them just applying those connection points. In the meantime, they're going to take a break, reevaluate what they're doing with all the different pieces, and then they'll be back to doing some torch work in a second.
We're a nonprofit dedicated to education, dedicated to community, and we use glass art and the creative process to help people to heal and to become interested in the visual arts, to become interested in science. A lot of our programming is focused around STEM concepts, STEAM concepts really, to include the arts. And we are a public access studio here for everyone. Seneca Studios was founded in 2010. We started offering program in early 2011, and we have over 30,000 people come and participate. The brand really illustrates community and bringing together the primary elements in community. We offer glass blowing opportunities, we offer flame working classes and workshops, and we also offer kiln forming classes. We've done programming for domestic abuse survivors, we've done programming for homeless kids and people who are looking to heal. We've used our process to help people to express themselves. One of our probably more powerful stories is about a young woman named Alexis who came in and she had never worked with glass, and we did a kiln forming project, and she and her brother and several other students cast their ideas into thick pieces of glass, and she made a heart that helped her to express the loss of her father. Had a pacemaker. It was a real interesting piece, and it ended up going at auction to someone who had also lost their father, and it was a really powerful moment for all of us. She was struggling to express herself, and we helped her to find her voice and to make something that she could not only see how it could help her tell her story, but also to connect in the community and help someone else kind of heal through glass art. As Seneca Studio presents to foundations and to donors and receives support, oftentimes the support is specific to a project where we're bringing in kids that are connected with those foundations or with those donors, and that money goes specifically to offering this opportunity to people who wouldn't have it otherwise. The organization has a sustainability model where we generate revenue in many ways, and that revenue is what covers our overhead and keeps the organization going. The support oftentimes is specific to a program, so that 100% of people's donations go towards offering programming to people. Our outreach and our culture of outreach really drives us to find funding outside of that so we can bring the community in and offer programs specifically to our community. Thank you. We are a determined group, and I pledge that any support offered will be used in endeavors in the spirit of community, with kindness and generosity, and with fearlessness.
Pautsch just had a fun time hitting a little bit of glass. Just burned himself. working in glass, it's very common to get burns. I mean, when you're by it so often, that's what happens. If you guys ever come take a class with us, it's very rare that you will get burned because we know to watch out for it. Also, most of the time, metals are what cause the biggest burns because you can't tell when a metal's hot. Glass, on the other hand, we treat it as it's always hot. So. Yeah, that's our same rule in here, yeah. We never touch any of the glass, especially if it's on the floor. It's better just to sweep it up and put it away because you don't know if it's hot enough. Because like Pautsch just demonstrated, even though that glass looked clear, it was pretty hot. We have plenty of burn cream though. We just let the glass cool down and then we'll sweep it up. If there's dirt and stuff, we're going to throw it away because if we try to recycle it, it creates a lot of air bubbles. It also depends. In the hot shop specifically, we can recycle the glass, but we can only recycle clear glass. If we start to recycle color glass back into the furnace, all of the colors combined will turn to a blue. And so that's really great, but we don't want to make blue things. We want to make all the colors. And so we can only recycle the clear glass because we're doing an art function. If you're talking about glass in general, it is infinitely recyclable, so you can just keep recycling it and reheating it the entire time. That's what they're doing. Yeah, so if you guys don't know, they're making a robot cup. For those in the studio, that's the drawing that they're kind of basing it off of. They have all the individual parts, so they had the body and the feet before. They're also working on a separate piece, so they're kind of working on two different pieces at the same time. So while one of the pieces is cooling, the other part they're working on. They have a lot of the components done already. So the head with the face on it, or the cup with the face on it, is already done.
This is going to be kind of similar to what we're doing right now. What he's making would be the square frame, and then eventually we're going to blow a bubble into it.
So this is a different piece that they're working on now. So they have the robot one where they're kind of like combining it all. This is the other one. They have these rings that they're going to put into a stack, and then they're going to blow into it and allow that glass to fill into that networked frame of glass.
So once all the rings are done, I'm going to warm this guy up. I'm going to stripe this color onto the surface, and then I'm going to melt it all in, and then while I'm doing this, that is going to, the robot head is going to warm up in the film, so when I pull it out and blow into it, they stick together. If we try to blow into it while it's cold, one of them will crack and they won't actually want to stick to each other. So we want to make sure both of them are warm, that way they bond together. Yeah, once the head is done, once that is done, we're going to get this super ripping hot. This little one, no, it's going to go in this one. Yeah, once we start on this, we're going to go until it's done.
So the question was where they're going to put it at the very end. They're going to put it into the big box at the very end. They're discussing the physics of the situation of whether or not you can make a 4-seated thing or a 3-seated thing sit flat. Those of you who took physics know that if you have 3 points on any type of vessel, it'll always sit flat because there's only 3 spots to connect, which means it won't wobble. As soon as you add a fourth, like a chair for example, it'll wobble if even one of the sides is a little high. So they're arguing on their blown cup whether they want to make 3 points to make it sit flat or 4 points to make it more natural looking. So the piece that Pautsch currently has in his hand is the piece that they'll be blowing into in a bit. You can see kind of eyes that were created in like the facial structure. And so now he's going to be heating it up a little bit more, sculpting. So right now, Pautsch is taking care of a lot of the sculpting, while Nick, on the other hand, is just kind of waiting until Pautsch is ready to go.
If we had a bigger kiln, I could go ahead and get started on this guy. But because I have nowhere to put this once it's prepped up, I have to just do it until it's done. So if we had a big enough kiln, I could prep it up and then put it away for a little bit, but because we don't have one that's big enough to keep this warm, then I have to do it all at once.
One of the advantages is with borosilicate, you can make pieces and put them away pretty easily. That's why the robot, they made the body and the feet, put those away, and then they have the arms out here and they'll put them away. For this process, since it's bigger, in order to put it away, we would have to have a bigger box to put it away in. And that red box isn't big enough for us to put back the color. So instead, Nick is proposing that we'll just do it right before we'll attach everything. That way when we put it away, it's to cool down in the black box for the rest of the time. So right now, Pautsch is just finishing up the final steps on kind of sculpting that face. Right now, Pautsch is just finishing up the melting process and the final sculpting on the face. He's just fine-tuning and detailing it to where he wants it to be. So they're going to finish up the goblet robot first to get that finished, and then they will work on the blown robot afterwards. So they're going to start working on the goblet robot first that has the cup and then the body. They're going to finish that and then put it away, and then they're going to work on the other robot cup that they're doing. So they've been going back to forth the entire time, but now they're going to focus exclusively on the goblet part of it to attach the body and the arms together and then attach the final face and cup. So Pautsch is making sure that the body and the attached piece is now centered. If it's off center, it creates a lot more problems later on, so he just told us that it is not centered, so he's going to take extra time to make sure that it's all centered up properly. In the meantime, on the other side, Nick is now getting that arm ready, the first arm ready. So in the meantime, Nick is now attaching a little knob to the side of the arm. That way the arms, when they attach, will be like on the side instead of a joint. Pautsch is still trying to focus to make sure that that gets on center, and it looks like it's pretty on center now. So now that he's attached it to the other set, he's now going to go ahead and start melting that other piece off. Never mind, he's going to box it away for a little bit. And then they're going to prep out the other arms. So now Nick's gonna do the same thing where he makes a little knob on the side of that arm again. That way they're both matching. And then they'll attach afterwards. For those of you that are at home or those of you who have joined in the studio, we have different classes that we offer. We're primarily an education studio. And so torch working is one of the areas that you can actually learn how to blow glass or make glass. Nick, who is now working on the flames, is our instructor here. So there's a lot of different type of workshops that you can take with him. Additionally, we have different classes in the hot shop as well, where you can learn how to make the blown glass. And then kiln forming glass is another of the studios that we offer classes in. We also do have cold working, which each of the other studios use. But tonight we're featuring our torch working studio and Pautsch glass as well. What was that? Our torch working studio is just kind of what this is. It's just the flame out in front and everything. Yeah. We offer a variety of classes from sculpted pieces to like blown pieces as well. Some of them are like hummingbird feeders, for example, or like sculpted eyes, stir sticks, a lot of different sculpted pieces. So now that all the individual pieces are made, they're jumping back to make the base of the blown one that they're going to blow into. So they keep jumping back between a lot of the pieces, or the two pieces they're making. Yes. So we're live streaming on Facebook, Instagram. Those are the two main ones right now. Nick, did you guys decide? Pautsch. Did you guys decide on 3 or 4 legs? 4 legs. Gotcha. So they're going to use 4 so that way it is a little bit more stable while they blow into it. That does risk, whenever it's done, being perfectly flat. So that's the trade-off, is while they blow into it, it'll be more structurally sound. But if they're not perfectly level when they're created, there will be a little tilt. But they can adjust for that problem later on by melting it and pushing it flat. Hopefully. We'll see. Maybe. Yeah. Nothing's guaranteed. about how whenever they're applying more glass to color together, they want to attach it and then twist it so that way it breaks off. Otherwise, you get a long string that when it melts, it kind of comes back and attaches on something else. So it's easier to just heat it into a ball and then twist around the ball until it gets thin and then plops off. But now he's going to be going back to the small torch, touching up that connection area. And so now they've created the base for the mold that they'll be blowing into. So they're now going to go ahead and start taking the body and start attaching the pieces.
First thing that's going to go on is a post. So we can, once we attach the arms, we need somewhere to weld to. That way we can work the attachment without the arm moving.
Yep. So the first...
Pautsch, hey, can we get the hand torch on?
So the first thing they're going to do is create little structures for the arm. If they were just to attach the arm while it's hot and just leave it, the arm would slowly drip down because of gravity.
Will you hold this while
So
I
instead what they're going to do is they're going to create another piece of glass that they'll break off later. That way the arm can attach in the hot spot toward the body, and then like the hand area would be attached elsewhere. That's the annealer. So it's just a hot box that'll hold the temperature so that way it'll stay hot. So for the post, they're attaching it back onto the stick that will not be a part of the piece. That way when they break it all off, it just stays on the actual long rod instead of being attached to the feet where it could create weird texture. So right now they're heating up that extra rod, pulling it away.
Video of me spilling water all over myself.
So Pautsch is adding another ring to that cage that they'll blow into later. So he's attaching those areas, lining it up. And then he's going to make sure all that's fused together. they're once again just kind of heating it up, and they're going to fuse together another bar to make it a little bit more structurally sound. That is going to be what they're going to blow into at the end. So if you guys at home are just joining us, we have Pautsch Glass is currently working on that piece in his hand right now, and then Nick in the gray shirt. Both of them are borosilicate glass workers, focusing a lot more on sculptural elements of glass. Yeah. So there are two pieces that they're currently working on. Yeah. There is that mold that is being created right now that they'll blow into later. And then there's also the piece that has all the individual robot parts with the arms, legs, all of that. And so they'll have two different pieces at the very end of it. They're going to take an extra piece of glass and then blow into it. Yeah, they're going to blow into it at the very end. So they went ahead and got the body out. They're touching up the post area that they'll attach to later. They are then going to take one of the arms and start getting ready to attach it all together. So they're now going to heat and attach the arm to it. Once it's attached, they'll make sure it's nice and fused together, all the temperatures equal. After they do that and the arm's not moving, they're then going to heat up that post that it's on and then reattach it to the base. That way it'll be structured or have a good structure behind it. So you can see he's now not heating up that area, but he's going to go ahead and bend it so that way it's attached. So you can see he's kind of bending it back, and then he's going to attach it to that original post that he made. So now whenever they heat up the arm again and they start to work on it, it'll have a second point of structure instead of just the shoulder connection.
We heard a very loud crack, but I think the crack is right where his handle is attached.
Is there another crack, is what you're saying?
Huh?
Is there another crack?
No. Well, just now. It's in the bridge, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
It's in the bridge, so we're going to remove it from there.
So they were saying they had a crack in one of the areas, but it's just the connection point, so they're reheating the connection point, which should take care of it. So now they're going to let that connection point kind of soak in the heat a little bit more. If they tried to work on it again while it's at the varied heat, it could cause stress, which would make it break. So instead they're going to let it soak in the red box, which is heating it. That way all the temperature equalizes. So right now they're just discussing about what they want to do for their other pieces. They've been working back and forth a lot the entire time. So they're going to start getting ready on the next part. Sorry. So Nick on this end is going to go ahead and take the initial piece of glass that he has and apply color to it on the outside. In the meantime, Pautsch is finishing up on the other side, getting ready for that mold to be blown into. So Nick is going to start by getting it all just generally hot. Did you guys figure out how you're blowing into it? Did you guys figure out how you're blowing into it?
Yeah, buddy. You see that?
32.
Perfect. Just hot.
So Nick's grabbing a temp gun so you can see how hot the glass is.
Way to move.
Whenever we're heating up glass from its cold state, we always use a really soft flame, especially in borosilicate, which it consists mostly of propane, which is why it's getting this like black exterior. So we're going to heat up the glass a bit more. We don't want to shock it due to the heat being too hot. Otherwise, the glass will break and crack. So if we just slowly raise the temperature over the course of a couple minutes, it'll be a lot better.
Well, once you get it hot enough, it takes the soot off, right?
What was it?
At about 1,000 degrees,
Then the soot just kind of disappears.
it
Yep.
blasts away. Yeah. Makes it it's a good temperature indicator.
Yeah.
Once it's on there, it's about 700 to 850. Once it blasts off, it's a good indicator it's about 1,000 degrees.
Once it starts moving, that's at least 1,700 usually. Once it's really moving, that's probably working around 3,000 degrees. But during the entire time, it looks clear for the most part, except when you get to that like 3,000 degree mark. So that's why we say don't touch any glass that you see in here, because you don't know if the clear glass is hot or cold, since they both look the same at 0 or like 2,000 degrees. Yeah, you can ask him. He touched it earlier.
I smoked enough in my lifetime to learn my lesson to do that. They're all making it look silly. Yeah. You can't see it, but
Alright, we're about 800 degrees. Katie, you do me a favor?
Yep.
Can you cut that open for me?
Yeah. So you can see that black exterior is now turning more clear, letting us know that it's getting hotter and hotter. And now that it's all gone, like you said, we know it's at least 1,000 degrees.
Set him right there. Thank you, sir.
So you can see he's now taking a black rod of glass and he's going to go ahead and use the heat to draw on it.
It looks black.
What color are you using?
This color is called experimental green.
Number 5.
Number 5.
There's no other number, and it's only number 5.
So this color is really interesting. Once you lay it, right now it looks pretty black, and it's really easily confused for black when you're looking around for color. But the way you figure out that it's not black is you put clear over it, and this black will actually turn white and blue and green once the clear is over top of it. So that's the whole purpose of us doing this on the surface and then blowing it into the clear, is so that hopefully we'll get a reaction anytime when it wraps around the clear of the frame.
Leave all of y'all to cross your fingers on that one.
Yeah.
So the idea is that the black color should react in some spots to make it that green-white look, and then other spots still stay black.
Yeah.
Basically.
Cool.
When it thins out enough, it'll be like either a light blue or a light green, transparent.
Gotcha.
Right now it's more of a light blue.
So one of the properties of glass is that it refracts and captures light very well, which is why it does appear more black in the rod, because it has captured the light, making it appear a little darker. So to use as much of the color as possible, Nick went ahead and took another piece of the color and attached it to the other spot, making a much longer area. Now he'll be able to use as much as the cane as he can.
Keep you around for something.
This is the largest tube that I've ever done this on, so taking my time. Yeah.
Nick's just slowly working his way around on that color. Pautsch is now finished up on the other side, and he's now making sure it's level. If he doesn't like any of the details, he can just heat up the specific connection points and then move them around a little bit more.
Oh, that sounded great.
This show is built for a live streaming audience.
So unfortunately, we got a crack on the bigger piece. So now he's going to heat all of it to see if he can fuse it back in together.
Oh wow, that's a nice crack. A nice big one.
So we're going to see if we can fuse back this crack.
Separating.
So the crack appears to be separating a little bit. So Nick's now trying to make sure that it all smooths together. So unfortunately, whenever you get a crack in glass and it's getting hot, glass likes to, whenever it's hot, goes to a certain thickness. And so it'll essentially like congeal on itself, so that way it will get to that thickness. So whenever you get a crack in it, there's always the risk that as you heat it, the glass separates and gets thicker. And so unfortunately, that's the case of what's happened here. Nick is now trying to add extra glass to the bottom, so that way the glass stays at that thickness while also fusing together the separated pieces that have spread apart.
It can be ugly, Nick. Just make it happen.
So that is why whenever we get cracks in glass, it is very hard to fix. But it looks like it got sealed. And so the reason he was blowing into that was to prove that it's actually sealed and holds pressure. It's not sealed anymore because we blew through it. But it was sealed before that.
No, it wasn't. There was a little tiny hole.
It became a much bigger hole.
It became a much bigger hole.
You're giving that a little bit. You can recover.
Nick, you want to seal it and then maybe like put a jack line in, break it off?
Maybe. The problem is, once I start heating up the bottom of these color rods, I've been working on this for way too long.
Yeah.
And this is only wanting to separate.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know what that is. Yeah.
So the more heat that the glass gets, the more it wants to separate. It also wants to move more, which makes it harder to control. So the longer that this takes, the more difficult it's going to become. It's fine. You're doing great, Nick. Keep it up.
It probably did. It reached all the way down around.
Yeah, exactly. Always moving.
Always.
So Nick added a thick piece of glass to try to fuse it. Seems to have sealed the hole mostly. And so now that that part's taken care of, now he's going to make sure the rest of it's happy after that. And so now he's going to start using that graphite pad as essentially like a marber or a flat space that he can roll the glass across.
So now in order to heal the crack on the bottom side, I need to handle up to this side because there is a very good chance once I start heating that up, it's going to run and separate from the tube.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So Nick is now going to go ahead and heat up the bottom and attach it to a different piece of glass. The reason is that he wants to break it off from the original piece since there's a crack in the side of the glass.
I just want to make sure it doesn't break off.
If it keeps heating up, the crack is more likely to run up the actual piece of glass tubing that he has. And so he wants to make sure that that glass tubing doesn't crack. He also wants to make sure that the piece doesn't crack on that glass tubing and then fall off. So he's going to attach it to a solid rod where he knows it's hot and it's not going to crack.
Yeah, buddy.
Basically like an escape point for the exorcist. Right?
Yeah. That's how you heal up a crack. It is. The best way to do it is to not let it happen, but you know.
Frankly, seeing you fix it is very impressive.
Thank you. Whew. Get crazy. Now my hands should be in the switch position. So I can do this. That way it doesn't crinkle up anymore. Alright. I think I'm in a safe place. Fish.
Oh, yeah.
Gonna make sure this handle is good enough for government work. Pretty nice. Yeah, good enough for government work. That's our goal.
We'll all be so lucky to have government jobs.
Oh, my glasses are so hot.
You want to swap?
No, I'm good.
Sure. It looks like you're having a lot of fun over there.
I'm having the most fun.
So Nick has gone ahead and attached his mouthpiece.
Is it? Does it have a mouth?
The mouthpiece is going to allow him to blow into the tube without having to move it around as much. It'll make it a little bit easier to get this fixed up.
Now it's gonna make sure it doesn't crack back on the way up.
So Nick's now done with that extra post, so he goes ahead and takes it off. Are you going to keep covering it in color? So now he's going to make sure everything's a little bit hotter this time around. So now that the crack is sealed, they're going to go ahead and start keep going on the color. Nick has also now turned up the temperature of everything around to make sure that the bigger glass stays hotter. So the little Bunsen flame is now much higher and much hotter.
From the inside, the color is changing from the inside of the glass. You got lots of cool colors, but I can't see it from the outside yet.
So the idea behind this color is that whenever it touches clear glass, it should shift in colors. So it appears more of like this black solid color now. It is actually a green color, right?
Yeah.
But it appears a little bit more blue. When it touches the glass, it turns to a greenish with some white in it. It's a very fun, confusing color. But the inside of the actual cup that we can see right now, where it's touching that color, should be more greenish. And the idea is when we blow it into that other cup that they made, or the other mold that they made, where it touches the clear bits, it should turn more of that green.
One of these, or you want to just put it on clear?
Either or, use that for now and I'll just put it clear. I'm super for real if you want to switch off on that. It's heavy.
I mean, not so much that it's heavy, it's just hot.
Okay. Either or.
But yeah, I might have you do some of this.
You're just doing one layer, right?
Yeah.
Hook in and then glove.
Yeah, I think we also need to cover the end of the tube as well, because I'm not covering the end.
You need to move the table.
Once you weld that together, you can go ahead and move the table.
Yeah. So it is welded together. I'm just going to pull off the edge.
So right now they're talking their game plan later on. In a second, they'll have to move the table. So
That second is out.
we will probably have to get someone else in here to help move the table. In the meantime, Nick is still going to be working on that extra color and applying that layer. So we're almost all the way around. Once we get fully around, then we'll put some more color on the base. And then you're going to heat up the entire thing so that way it's movable, and then you can blow into the mold afterwards. The mold, if you guys haven't seen it, is put away into our annealer right now. It's heating up at the moment to get to about 1,000 degrees or so.
Where's that other rod at? Here, trade me. Go ahead, put that one down. I'll grab it. Win. Good teacher, right?
And so what they did with this rod is they added clear to one end of it so that way they could make it a longer handle so that way his hand's away from the heat while still getting as much of the color in as possible.
Did you plug my thing back in?
Yes. Yes, yes.
Shit. This thing is going still. Still running. It's a new one. I'm almost there.
So there's another crack that has now appeared, or it might be the old one.
No, it's a new one.
It's a new one. So now we're trying to work through it. It's the new old one.
There's a lot of stress in this piece.
Because the piece is so big and our flames are limited, that's what's causing this crack to reappear. One of the areas is getting too cold while the rest is heating up, causing stress within the glass itself, which causes the cold area to crack, and then it'll run where it starts to get a little hotter.
I'm trying to figure out, it starts right here.
And so some of the areas have been neglected by the heat, which is why they crack.
I'm trying to make sure it's not running up. Yeah.
So that is one of the issues if you start to work bigger and bigger, is that you have to have a big enough heat to be able to maintain the temperature of the glass.
Lay out the lines in the foot pedal. You don't lay out the lines in the foot pedal?
I know. I probably should. Oh,
Yeah, I mean, work on the 70 going wood.
you want me to hand this over to you?
Yes.
Take it. You ready?
Okay, I got it. Sure, yeah. Bigger flame.
So now we got a much bigger flame.
This is much lighter than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I blew it out.
You got a longer handle so I can like out here. Oh, there he is. You can find me a long bucket.
Don't melt.
I got it. This will work. Got it. I didn't know this had a Bunsen going too.
Yeah. Still cracking.
So now they're gonna heat it up a bit more, attach the bottom, and then they're gonna try to fuse back that other piece. So we're liking where it's at now, so he's going to go ahead and take off that post, and then he's going to start to continue to apply the color onto it.
What if I put down your torch and just heat up the graphite?
Sure? Yeah, do what you gotta do.
Okay. Torch not landing.
Yep. Get the kill.
Want to grab that thing out of the stone for us here in a second? Oh, yeah. Who got it? Who got it?
Just someone.
Getting on out of the kiln right over here.
So Pautsch is finishing up the final steps, getting that color on. Nick is preheating this piece of graphite. In a second, they're going to go ahead and get the vessel out of the annealer.
I honestly should have thought of that, knowing you.
200 will probably work, right? You think that's too cold?
200?
200 on the graphite to set that frame on?
No, you can like measure the temperature.
Yeah, we have it with the laser gun. The heat gun.
I mean, that seems a little cold.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I think you're right.
I try to get around 5
5?
at least.
You got
Yeah.
a little ways to go.
I don't know. I don't know if you split it that much anyway.
4 up, so I think that as long as the graphite is over some 100, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull off Don't let that torch spin help with that gas torch.
Yeah, that nat gas is gonna take it right up there.
Oh, I thought you were gonna fry me. Yeah, I thought that was the plan.
Yeah, but
I don't need the busting.
you don't need it.
No. Do your thing, man.
Marty's already eating this one.
Whatever's clever.
If we blow into it with that, you're gonna end up with some holes.
So they're heating it up a bit more,
Gotcha, gotcha.
Blow into the hole.
and then they're going to blow into the mold afterwards.
Yes, all of those things, issues.
Kevin's gonna grab this out of the kiln. So whenever you're ready, sir.
Well, I gotta pull off a lot of clear on the end of this.
Stand up, man. Make it look good.
Oh, I'm gonna make it look so good.
Yeah.
So now they're heating up the bottom, which has all the clear, and then they are going to pull the clear off, which at the same time is going to draw the black in, or the green in.
The color.
Yeah. So the color will now be pulled to the bottom. So now they got all the color closed off on the bottom.
Yeah, fill it up.
That's so sketchy. Now these big metal bowls.
Big old metal bit.
Big old metal bowls. Yes, that's the end result is going to be an almond. I'm doing a good job, right?
So now they're heating it a lot more, getting it ready.
Smooth it out, make it all pretty.
Once it's hot enough, then they can start using the graphite to kind of marver and shape the sides to smooth it out. The heat will also naturally smooth it out a little bit for them. So using a combination of the two, they should be able to get a nice, smooth colored surface.
You didn't have your inner oxygen. This one on.
If anyone wants didiniums, by the way, let us know and we can grab you some. Didiniums are nice glasses that'll allow you to see what's happening in the flame a little bit more.
Brightest part of the process. Let you see.
Will you pass one behind you?
You think at this point your torch and my torch are getting the same heat? Or do you think yours is still hotter?
No, I think yours is just as hot, if not hotter, because of my flame. With my jets.
How fast are you going to put it in? Pretty quick, I think. He's going to hand it off over to me first. Yeah, he doesn't want to be the one.
I don't want to mess it up.
He doesn't want to mess it up. He just doesn't want to work on the frame. That messing it up is my job. Very nice.
I want the glory over here. Okay, are you gonna like heat it up more, or should I heat it up?
I'll heat it up more.
Okay, cool.
Let it chill for just a sec.
So Pautsch is about to hand it off to Nick, and then Nick is going to go ahead and take it from there.
Getting out of the way with the drink.
2400. This flame's probably close to 3500, 4000.
Closer to probably 4 or 5
Yeah.
at this point. Go ahead.
Bigger the flame and the more extreme it's pushing out, the hotter it gets. And so they're going to go ahead and take that extra vessel that they had.
Move the torch out of the way, please.
Nick's now going to go ahead and take the glass, bring it over, let it drip. As it drips, it's stretching and thinning, and then he's going to blow.
Ooh, got a real thin on the back.
Yeah. Definitely gonna put another
So it got a little thin on one side where it blew out, but all in all, it went in pretty well.
And then we just gotta adjust the base.
So they're going to heat it up, allow the glass to thicken up and kind of draw back on itself. So they're heating it, allowing it to thicken up, and then they'll blow a little bit. That way it just doesn't wrinkle or collapse. And so you can see it's gone from getting really wide to now it's a little bit more controlled.
How are we going to pull this off?
I don't know. I thought you had a plan.
Maybe we should stop that?
No. Okay. Somebody gave me one, but I don't use it.
Should we handle up to it?
For the base?
Yeah. The base is probably too thin, man.
So right now they're heating it up. They will go ahead and blow out the very top side. So they're kind of slowly working on it and bringing up that opening up a little bit wider.
We're just at where we're at. I think the clear is holding it together too much. Alright, let's fog rubbers. Will you hold this on this side? This side. Alright, tube side. Go ahead and step on the pedal.
So now they had used a metal tool to essentially act as a post instead of attaching another piece of glass. This will make it so they don't have to heat the bottom again.
You can get that off of there. You can ream it open a little bit.
I can try.
I can blow and pull it.
So now they're discussing how they're going to open it up a little bit more.
Yeah, my
So they heat up the top and then they blew it out a little bit more.
Good?
Not having enough hair to do anything.
No. Let me, I'm going to disconnect this. I'm going to blow it and I'm going to pull.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready, just let me know and I'll grab it.
Yeah.
Oh, it opened. I got it. I got it.
Okay. Woo! Unnecessary. Fool's a word for it.
So we got asked earlier why they do like a twisting motion around, and that's why. Whenever you have a lot of glass and you just pull it apart, it gets a long string, which gets a hot, dangerous fun time. But if you do it wind, yeah, if you twist it on this one, you would seal it up.
Can I get something to paddle with black?
Paddle, the top, yeah.
So now they're doing a couple things. One, they're opening up the top a little bit wider. Two, they're going to try to flatten it out.
I got scissors in my hand. They might be if I know how to use them. You want to do it?
Is that wax?
Should be. I would double check it though.
You should double check that.
If you need some wax, corner. Perfect.
Keep that whole lip. And then you're just going to roll and I'm going to try to flare that.
Do you guys want to paddle on the lip too?
Whenever you're ready. Out of the way.
Inwards if you can, that might,
I don't want to shock the bottle. I don't know how much heat we have left out there.
Turn. That is actually not too bad. I like that. I'm going to paddle it if you want.
I don't even want to leave it artsy.
Or you can heat it up and you can press it.
So at this stage, they're just trying to heat it up, flare it out, open the lip a little bit more.
Cold working is the only thing that's going to happen.
Grab the hot gloves. This is the one you get for hot gloves. Put away. Somebody gonna open the door?
So now they're going to take it off,
There we go.
and then they're going to put it away.
And now the applause.
So it's going to sit in that box at about 1,000 degrees. And then borosilicate cools down pretty quickly, but we'll take that out tomorrow probably.
Yeah, that was awesome. All right. You need a break. You put pictures up online?
Yeah.
cup. Takes like a couple minutes, and then we'll finish that guy up.
Yeah, I gotta attach another arm.
Oh, you do? Okay.
You guys got arms and stuff too.
Yeah, he's got one more arm to go, or I can finish the arm.
Go for it. My
I'll go
torch
ahead.
is on the ground.
Yeah, fair enough. These both of them right here. Just straight, or
Yeah, more out. I'd say out, and then if you lift it up even higher.
like reaching, like this.
Whatever reaches down
For a
the
second.
elbow. Because the elbow is too low, some people don't really go like long jigs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I want it to be like right here, so you can go right inwards.
Yes, perfect. Exactly.
No, we just haven't attached it yet.
Yeah, we decided to do the showier thing.
All right, you guys. So Nick and Nathan are finishing up this last piece. We saw them build the parts for this earlier, so if you guys have been watching the broadcast, you've seen them make these parts, put them away in a little annealer, and now they're gonna assemble this little robot. So Nick's got these arms of the robot attached to what we call a punty, which is gonna allow
This would
him
be a
to,
solid handle, I guess.
which will allow him to kind of manipulate the part, attach it. And then it looks like he's creating a bridge, which is going to help support that arm and stop it from moving. Bridges are kind of cool because they allow you to attach a bunch of parts together without things moving too chaotically. So if Nick were to get this whole thing hot, the arms wouldn't flail around if it's got a nice bridge stabilizing it. So this setup that we have going on here is kind of wild because we've got a bunch of space, we've got a bunch of torches set up so that Nick and Nathan can do a bunch of things like this, which is working from a larger torch to a smaller, tiny little baby torch, switching back and forth to alternate between bigger sculpting and also tiny little details. So these little tiny baby torches are super cool because you can get into a tiny little space and clean things up. If you guys take a networking class here, you'll get to use one of these tiny baby torches. Sweet.
Hopefully it fits back in here.
All right. Do you want to put it in the bigger annealer?
I don't know if that'll work. It's got a handle on it.
All right, Nick getting creative.
That's all our heat right there. Let's see, how fast are we losing heat out of this thing right now? Can it make it? So if this is closed all over. It's going back. I had to, yeah.
What'd you do?
I attached the arm, but it wouldn't fit back in there, so I had to set it in there like this. So,
What a good versatile kiln, it isn't dumb.
yeah. That isn't dumb.
I mean, it's at 800.
He's just a hater. It's at 800 right now. It's coming up. I think we're still live.
Yeah, we are. Yeah,
At first I was afraid I was petrified.
Do you want to go ahead and
yeah. They're finishing up. They're gonna put the head on. No, it is in the flame working studio.
Can I trade you? I can't use my right arm anymore.
I have the mic and everything's
My So I guess the next step is to put that cup that's in the flame working studio on
I'm going
that.
to, I think, remove all
Okay.
I got to remove all the bridges first because I'm attached to the head.
Oh, got it.
So I got to
Okay.
remove the bridges and then attach the head.
Got it.
I attach to the head.
So Nick's waiting for the whole robot body to kind of come back up in temperature. He's going to remove all those bridges, those support structures that we saw him attach. And then he's going to be putting that head on. So if you guys were tuned in to the beginning of this broadcast, you guys saw them working on this little head that's going to go on top of that body. So they're waiting at this point, they're waiting for the piece to come back up in temperature a little bit. And then they're gonna grab that top part out of the other studio. So you guys, if you haven't had a chance to come take classes with us, highly encourage you to try it. If you're interested in the studio you watched tonight, our flameworking studio, we offer classes for all levels. So if you've never done this before, we have something for you. Check out our website, senecastudios.org. You can click on the classes link at the top of the page, and then find the flameworking tab and come take some classes with us. Nick teaches here, so most likely you'll be taking a class with Nick. And it's a lot of fun. Playing with fire. I know a lot of you are probably pyromaniacs out there. It's tons of fun to come play on a torch. And certainly we're watching tonight someone who has been doing this for almost a decade at this point, or a little over a decade. So keep that in mind when you come and take a class. We're going to start you off with basics, but certainly you're going to make your own things and get to put your own color on it, and then you'll be able to have your own thing. Our classes are set up so that you guys can come make stuff and then get to keep the thing that you made. So if you guys are interested in taking classes online, check out our website, sign up for class online, and come see us. Why are all the photos blurry? So Nick is taking off these bridges, removing some of the excess glass. And then the point that he's heating and cleaning up right now is where the head is going to get attached. Super stinking cute. We're really maxing out the annealer size here, so Nick is having to get a little creative with how he does this. So the annealer is maintaining the overall temperature. Nick is heating up part of it, and he's got to make sure the whole thing stays hot. So those of you who have watched our broadcasts before, those of you who have come to our demonstrations before, you know that you got to make sure that the glass stays even in temperature, and if it cools down too fast, it's going to crack. So we really got to watch out for that. So Nick is being really careful about making sure the temperature stays nice and hot so it doesn't crack. So So those of you who are just tuning in to our broadcast, we're getting close to the end here to assemble this piece. We're just in a little bit of a waiting period in terms of waiting for this piece to equalize in temperature, and then we're going to do the final assembly. It is starting to become summer out here in Texas, and the boys are definitely feeling that. It's warm in the studio tonight. Now, don't forget that we do this event every month on the second Friday of every month. This is our open studio night event, and we feature artists for these demonstrations so you guys can learn about glass making. Highly, highly encourage if you are local to come check this out. It's a lot of fun. And if you've never seen glass making in person, we do a variety of demonstrations every month. So come check it out. Today we're featuring our flame working studio, but we do glass blowing demonstrations as well.
Hey, that was nice.
Did all the work for you.
Yeah, dude.
I guess we found the crack.
Hey, we planned it. I thought one of them cracked. I didn't realize they both did.
Okay, so I guess just put it away and then we'll.
So we just a little bit of a. Yeah.
All right, so Nathan's taken off that other bridge now. He's adjusted the shape of the arms a little bit. And the last part of this is going to be the assembling of the cup. It's super cool to watch these pieces all get made individually, and then you see everything kind of come together at the end. Now, the thing to note about this studio and the glass that we're working with in this studio is it's borosilicate glass, which is a much harder glass than the soft glass we blow glass with in the hot shop. So borosilicate glass is more, it's got a brand name associated with it, which is Pyrex. So you might know the name Pyrex, which is very, very temperature tolerant. You can, cook something in it, stick it in a baking oven, hopefully without it exploding. So it's less prone to thermal shock. It's less prone to cracking. And so this glass comes in tubes, it comes in rod form, and it's pretty awesome for sticking into a flame without it cracking completely. Of course, every glass is going to have its limitations, so the thicker the glass, the more you have to take care of heating it up too fast. Even borosilicate is like that. But it is definitely one of the more temperature tolerant glasses. So doesn't tend to crack too easily when heating up quickly, and doesn't crack too easily when cooling down super fast. The thing that's really great for is it makes sculpting this glass really awesome. You can do things like networking, which is a process we offer in the winter. So if you wanted to come try networking, which is making kind of like a cage of glass. It's a pretty awesome technique. So if you don't know what that is, we do offer a class in networking in the winter time to make a networked ornament. So this is the cups that they stashed away at the beginning of the demonstration. Those of you who've been kind of hanging out with us saw them put this away. You saw saw them attach that little head. And now this is the final assembly for that whole sculpture. The little robot. So some real teamwork we've been seeing here today with Nathan and Nick. They're both really good friends. They both work together quite a lot. And it's been super awesome to see them work together. In some instances, both of their hands are on the piece at the same time, which has been really awesome to see.
Oh shit! Oh my god. Okay. Murphy's Law. Make a Maria. Yeah. You pull off the bottom? No. No. Yeah. We did that.
So Nick's got a little bit of a hole in the bottom. He's repairing by putting a small little patty on. It's not too big an oops. Sometimes things go wrong, especially when a bunch of people are watching you in a demonstration. So Nick's got a little blob of glass now covering that little hole. And once he cleans that up a bit, we're going to be ready for the final assembly. Alright.
Go ahead and pull that out.
So Pautsch is pulling out that little sculpture that we had earlier.
Now I gotta make sure to put this on straight. It's not gonna be easy to turn.
One of the cool things about this demonstration is Nick and Nathan are both really pushing their their level of comfort with this thing. They're doing great. We're definitely working outside our comfort zone tonight. So cool. Super duper cool.
Hand towards it. Go ahead and pull your hand towards that. I'll hold it while you do it. Ready? Yeah.
They're making sure that connection is nice and clean, so using the little baby torch for some detail work. That looks super cool. Those of you who are at home, don't forget that we do have a live in-person audience, and it's a lot easier to see things in person, so we hope you guys will come join us for our next one. So remember, we do this once a month on the second Friday of every month. Come by, hang out with us, bring some friends. This is super cool.
We can probably put it in the Bluebird. So? Alright. I don't want to put it in another. That's fair. Robot's got a real stick up his ass.
So what's cool is this little sculpture looks so much like that drawing that they had earlier. Those of you who have missed the beginning of the broadcast, once we go off of live, this is going to be able to be watched again. Highly encourage you guys to go check it out. The cup was one of the first things we did, and the recording will be online. If you want to rewatch any parts, you can. Super duper cool. All right. Super close tight fit.
Beautiful. All right. It fits. It fits. It fits. It fits.
Y'all gonna leave it in there?
Huh?
Gonna leave it over here?
We're gonna warm it up. Handle's the last step. Yeah, we thought we could both at once, but then steps are more of it.
So we've seen the main part of the assembly for this cup. They're warming everything up, so they've put everything in that box again just to bring it back up to temperature. And then the last step is getting rid of that handle, the thing that's sticking out of the kiln. So some of the most interesting, intricate pieces take a long time and a lot of patience.
That's gonna be really awkward. That's a solo separate. Two separate things, yeah. So this is kind of more standard. It's still experimental, but that one was real like, I should try some stuff. It's a demo. It'll be fun. It's a good project. And this is really open, so we're not going to get close to 50 again. Is that 7? It's not going to close more. You can set it cup down.
All right.
I mean, honestly, I'd probably use like I like the nice finishing tool. You'd rather have almost done. Last step.
All right.
You don't like nicer finishing tools? That's grabbers. 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 These are just not their last leg. I need to find tags. Make these work. I do it all the time. I just don't like it. I'll break these over to see. As rounded as I was worried about, but yeah, they're different. They're like scissors. Yeah. These are literally like grill tongs.
Scientific lateral stiffness. It's not the same circumference of a beaker.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is grill tongs. Pads on it. Like literally, I bought these at Walmart and then put $80 pads on them. I say bought them. Stole them from Walmart.
No, tell her.
I mean, don't hit me with a good time.
It gets pretty bad.
Oh, I heard.
Oh, yeah.
That was real bad.
We get a treat every Friday.
It was real bad. Wow.
Wait, do
Yeah.
you work here? Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
You think he's just hanging out?
That's where we met.
He doesn't like us that much. He wouldn't be hanging out otherwise.
I'm just there for the beer. No, I'm in the,
He's there to explain
I'm in
the
the
rules.
hot shop, so.
Hot shop?
Yeah.
This.
He works in this room.
This room.
Oh, got you.
So I don't do work.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right, you need it for me or you got it?
Got it. I don't want to got it.
Another pair of
I
hands.
will need that door.
I will open it.
And I will hate myself for setting that piece down.
deep dive on this. I have all the time in the world.
All the time in the world. This is Boro. We're working Boro.
What a doubt work Boro.
Yeah. He's gonna wipe his ass till it's clean. You want me to stand by with the hand torch?
Real big for that torch. Okay, a little small.
Angle it down, and I can, like, so gravity can pull it down towards the table.
All right, so we're finishing up. These guys have pulled off the punty. And the final step is cleaning up that break off.
Good acting. There we go. Beautiful. Good work.
And then the glass finally goes into an annealer to cool down. So super great demo tonight. Thank you, Nathan and Nick, for all your hard work in this demonstration. It was kind of awesome to watch you guys work together. We've had them out before, but we haven't seen them make anything like this, so that was a lot of fun. So we're gonna pass this mic off to Clifton to wrap up this broadcast. But thanks for joining us tonight, you guys. Really appreciated y'all tuning in.
I have a microphone on. I think it's working, but I will thank you, Gene. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Brandy, for your hard work to make tonight possible, to make this broadcast a success. I want to thank Nathan and Nick for their demonstrations tonight. It's awesome to feature someone who works here and to bring people together, and especially people who were exposed to glass here at Seneca Studios. Nick took his first class here. Nathan saw his first demonstrations here, so it's really cool to kind of carry on and to, you know, see this thing come full circle. So thank you guys all for tuning in. I want to thank the Arts Commission, the Texas Commission on the Arts, the Arts Fort Worth, City of Fort Worth, JES Edwards Foundation, everybody out there that donates. But really, it's about community. I want to thank the Near Southside Arts District and everybody that's here in the Near Southside area. We're fortunate to be in this area, and we're thrilled that you've participated, you've tuned in tonight. So thank you guys. The second Friday of every month we do things. This coming June 24th, we're having our ice cream social. Come check out the gallery, check out the website, take some classes. Come on, people, where are you? You need to be here. You should have been here tonight. This was a great night. Come join us. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Thanks, fellas. Nice work.